guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Landon and we are here again today for some more notes. I hope y'all got y'all glasses ready. Hold up. Oh, it's about to be on and popping up in here. Okay. Today we're going to be going over the Map of the Soul 7 HYYH The Notes. Notes that were in the albums over here. Are y'all ready? Listen, a little side note. Let me take these off because y'all know I'm serious. There was actually a game trailer that was released before these notes, but it is less than 1 minute. And I was like, I can't really justify making a full video out of that. So we're going to do the Map of the Soul 7 notes here. Then in the next video, we're going to go back a step, look at the game concept trailer, bring it back, finish off with a new Smeraldo blog update. Oh, Smeraldo's back, bitch. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I just want some flowers. No, I want some answers, bitch. That's what I really want, okay? So, don't be coming over here with flowers. They die. Answers last forever. Anyway, as per usual, there will be 3 notes per member. 2 of them came in the original version 1, and then each version 2, 3, and 4 has like 1 or 2 members have a specific extra note. So, we're gonna go through those today. We're gonna read them and pray my voice doesn't give out. All right, y'all. All right, let's frickin' do it. I had to time up my screen recording. All right, let's do it. So the first note we have here is from our infamous day, April 11th, year 22, from Seokjin. This is note number 1. Oh, here we go again, April 11th. I opened my eyes again to blazing sunlight. The image of fire inside the container and Namjoon's dead body remained inside my eyelids. Another failure. I raised my arm to cover my eyes as I thought, what ways to save Namjoon could be left? Slowly, I thought back to the events of September 30th. I felt no particular emotion and was neither impatient nor afraid. After the accident in the container town, I had made countless loops, but I still hadn't been able to understand why I made these loops, or what I had to do in order to fix things. No, even more than that, I hadn't yet been able to figure out what exactly the Map of the Soul was. The clue that was supposed to end all of this, the Map of the Soul, the first time I heard those words had been after I had already repeated several failures. Find the Map of the Soul. It will be able to end all of this. So, okay, remember in the classroom, we saw the notebook, it was like the Map of the Soul. Map of the Soul? Map of the No. What on earth is that? I pressed, but there was no response. Instead, the words remain. Hints come at a cost. Is at the magic shop. Okay, I spotted Namjoon's gas station some distance away. I turned on my blinker and changed lanes. I could only think of one thing. Stopping the accident on September 30th and ending the loop. I was only moving towards that goal. Even if there was a problem with the process or if someone was hurt or alienated, I couldn't do anything about it. If I let myself linger on or be overwhelmed by these things, I would never achieve my goal. Even more important than saving everyone was that I myself was able to survive and escape. That was a lesson that the endlessly repeating loop had taught me. So over and over, the loop is teaching you, yes, you gotta save everybody, but don't forget about yourself. The map of your own soul, beat. Is here. Alright, the next one, Seokjin, August 3rd, year 22. All at once, the images and the photos on the floor appeared to move. Jungkook turned around to look at me as if he heard the sound of Hoseok and Jimin's laughter. In the next moment, I could hear Yoongi's piano. Namjoon and Taehyung laughed and ran on the beach. Those moments lifted from the photos and hovered in the air like a movie. These pictures coming to life now, this Harry Potter. Okay. There was a music and burst of laughter in the bright sunshine. Moment after moment overlapped and movie after movie played, and it felt like something unidentifiable was released from my heart. It flowed through my veins into each former of my body. Some kind of dam in my head crumbled and memories gushed forth like a flood. They whirled around my head so furious I couldn't come to my senses. The entire room was alight with memories, sad memories, nostalgic memories, troubling memories, and enjoyable memories eddied around me. As I watched them, I felt something unbelievable. How could I have forgotten all of these moments? Then I saw it. Something was shimmering inside my pocket. What's in there? Is it the Map of the Soul? The Marauder's map? Or is the Map of the Soul going to be like the Marauder's map where we can see where everybody is at? So then that way we can solve everything and get everything in place? I don't know. The last one here is from version number 4, Seokjin. This is February 1st, year 22. So before April. The announcement that we would soon land came on overhead. There was nothing visible but fluffy clouds outside the windows. I looked back on my time in LA, back where people visited me. It was nice having a beach beside Besides that, there was nothing particularly memorable. The plane made a large turn and the city became visible. Returning to Songju had happened suddenly. My father had called and told me come back. Of course there was a reason. My father wasn't the type of person who did anything without a reason, but he hadn't told me what that reason was. I didn't ask either, since I knew I would realize once I arrived, but then again, maybe coming back to Songju hadn't been so sudden after all. Maybe everything had already been decided and it was just that I didn't know anything. So he's like, what the fuck am I about to step onto when I get off this plane? Like, what is about to be? What's about to be happen? I heard the kid in the row ahead of me ask, is that our house? I looked out the window. No, our house is across the river, said someone who seemed to be the kid's father. Home. I repeated the last word inside myself. I didn't feel like I was just going home, but it wasn't like LA was my home either. LA and Songju, they were both my addresses, but neither place was my home. Girl, I get it. All right, thank you, Jen, for your helpful contributions to this study. All right, the next person we're going to move on to is Yoongi. This is number 1. June 13th, year 22. Okay, so June 13th. I thought of Jungkook's words. It's because I like your music, Hyung. It's because listening to your piano makes me cry. Me, I wanted to die several times a day, but when I hear Hyung's piano, I want to live. That's why. God, goosebumps. I'm telling you, that's why. What I mean is Hyung's music is like my heart. Drunk and sprawled on the floor, I thought of Jungkook's expression as he repeated himself. Oh, it gave me chills. It gave me the same kind of chills that Hobi and Yoongi had outside when he was outside in the rain and Hobi had enough and just had to let Yoongi know that he was like, need to get his shit together. Like, same kind of goosebumps. All right, so the next one is Yoongi version 1, number 2, July 25th, year 15. Yoongi, as soon as I entered the living room, I sat in front of the piano. There was no time to even wipe my sweat. I wiped my sticky palms on my t-shirt. My mother opened the sheet music. I couldn't quite make it out. I blinked. Oh, this is year 15. Okay, I was like, damn, bitch, where's your mama come from? I spent the last hour running around under the blazing sunshine. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't hear the sound of my own breathing. Sweat ran down my spine and soaked the small of my back. My fingers trembled. Min Yoongi, you can't even play Chopin yet. This is... Forget it's summer in LA. It's gonna be hot. Let me turn the air off though. Hold up, y'all. The sacrifices I make for y'all, you know? Man, you can't even play Chopin yet. Is this the time for you to start composing? My mother tapped the sheet music. What had I played before? I couldn't recall. Again, from the beginning, my mother said in a low voice, again. So Yoongi's mom was really the reason for the piano. It's making more sense now why he connects that piano with her. I played the same page over and over. My body was still warm and I was still sweating. My mind was blank and I felt like throwing up. Maybe that was why. I ignored the sheet music and ignored my mother and played with the emotions that seemed to explode from inside me. My mother grabbed my hands and pulled them away from the keyboard. This isn't the right emotion, she said. Please stop, I shouted as I shot up from my seat. My mother stared at me frozen. Stop it. Please stop it. I spit out whatever words I could find. I jumped in place and tore at my hair. Then finally, I grabbed my mom's trophy and threw it on the piano. One of the keys broke and flew forward, brushing my cheek. Oh, that's the key, bitch. That's the key. That's why he was so infatuated with the key. Okay. All right. The next one is Yoongi is going to be from version number 2, his first note. August 2nd, year 22. I sent the music file to Seokjin Hyung and then laid down in place. I had found something written in the margins of the sheet music I brought from my storage classroom. If we're together, we can laugh. It wasn't my handwriting. I remember something from a while ago. It was on a foggy day. Somehow, Seokjin Hyung and I ended up crossing the athletic field. We were awkward with each other. I shoved, yeah, they're such an awkward couple. And I love that. Okay, not couple, you know what I mean. I shoved my hands in the pockets and walked slowly on purpose. I hoped he would leave me behind, but Hyung wasn't like that. Instead, he made fumbling attempts at conversation, and each time he did, it got a little more awkward. I asked, despite myself, when was the last time you laughed for real, Hyung? Hyung didn't answer. I didn't ask again. If we're together, we can laugh. Somehow the sentence seemed like the answer to my question. I wasn't sure that Hyung had written it. I didn't need to be sure. The melody on the sheet music was childish. It had only been 2 years ago, but my music from back then was underdone and aggressive. It didn't connect smoothly and it wasn't beautiful. When I thought of high school, I thought only of getting drunk and staggering around. But it wasn't like every day had been like that. I stayed up all night polishing my songs from back then and gave it the name, If We're Together, We Can Laugh. Okay, now I need to hear it, bitch. I'm trying to laugh with y'all. Thank you. All right. Bonding over music there. The next member here is Namjoon, August 25th, year 22, version 1, note 1. I dropped to the floor of the container. Oh god, here we go. The inside of the metal container was so hot I could barely open my eyes. I looked around with my face scrunched up. It had only been 10 minutes since I told him to wait while I go get ramyeon. I heard a cough and looked around and saw Wu Chang crouched further inside. I doused a blanket in water and wrapped it around Wu Chang's body. I pointed to the window. We're going to have to jump through there, I said. Wu Chang, you can do it, right? Outside the door, crimson red flames were shooting up. I grabbed Wu Chang's hand on the count of 3. We're jumping on 1, 2. In a moment, something fell outside the door. The materials that were stacked next to the container seemed to have collapsed in the flames. Sparks flew and the dust. Wu Chang and I stepped back, shocked. In a split second, the exit had been blocked. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. All right, this is Namjoon, July 18th, year 22. I looked up at the building. There were lights on here and there. Maybe because it was a city center. There were lots of signs for accountants and lawyers. On the top floor, the 5th floor, all of the lights were on. For the last few weeks, Taeyoung and I had looked from the tops of all the tallest buildings in Seonju. We didn't know what we were looking for. The only clue we had was Taeyoung's dream. The canned coffee and 4-leaf clover he'd seen in his dream. We took that one clue and stayed up all night climbing up and down buildings. It rained for a few days. At first we brought umbrellas to explore the buildings, but these days we just let ourselves get wet, you know what I'm saying? We found ourselves in a few conflicts because of it. Once, soaking wet, we had been mistaken for hooligans on the building stairs and chased out. It was common for the iron doors to the rooftops to be locked, and it was impossible to check from the landing of the stairs. I looked up the building again. I thought to myself, will this be what we have to find? There was a familiar name on the door, the offices of Assemblyman Kim Chang-jun. Who's that? Taeyoung asked. I looked over at him. You don't know? Taeyoung looked back at me, his gaze pure and naive and totally unknowing. Lately, I had been feeling at a loss about Kim Taeyoung. There were things that seemed impossible not to know, but Kim Taeyoung really didn't know them. Taeyoung looked unhesitatingly at things I was too afraid to look at, and who reached out obstinately to take someone's hand when no one else would extend theirs. I said, "It's Seokjin Young's father." Daddy issues. All right. My next note here is from May 21st, year 15. So this is Namjoon as a kid again. This is from version 2, his first note. I went quietly in the entryway. As I slowly turned the handle, I looked around for signs of anything amiss. I couldn't hear a single sound. I put my head in and looked around, but the house was dark. I took a single step inside. "Mom," I called out, but there was no answer. I started to reach for the light switch, but then I looked around again. It was past 9. There was no way nobody could be home. "Mom," I called again, but it was silent. I was home a little later than usual. Ordinarily, I had to help my mom as soon as school ended, but I wanted to play with my friends at least once. That was why I was home so late without even calling, but there was no one at home. A strangely chilly feeling came over me, and I held my arms in my hands and stood in the dark living room. Suddenly the phone rang, the chill spread, the phone was ringing, but for some reason I felt like I couldn't pick it up. It was an anxious feeling like if I answered, everything would change, like I would never be able to go back to the person I was right then. But the phone kept ringing, and I eventually made my way to it. Then I lifted the receiver. I got this weird feeling that it's like from the hospital, his mom and dad are in the hospital or something, and his dad didn't make it or something like that. Oh God. All right, so let's move on now to Hosak. July 24th, year 22. This is his first note from version 1. Seokjin Young, can't you say something to your father? Young, you know what the place means to me. The orphanage is my home, and if the orphanage is gone, then all the kids who live there will end up getting scattered. Even if they have to redevelop the area, they could do it without affecting the orphanage. Oh God, Jin Daddy, stop. Words poured forth from me as I entered the container. Everyone looked at me in surprise. Only Seokjin Young's expression was unchanged. Even though I was holding back tears as I spoke, Seokjin Young looked at me as if I was nothing. It's already been decided. There's nothing I can do. Each word Young spoke reached me slowly. It was clear to me. The line those words drew between me and Seokjin Young belonged to a decisive world, and I belonged to a world that couldn't even complain about those decisions. I thought of Seokjin Young as a friend, but now I thought that maybe it was impossible for me to be friends with someone like Young in the real world. No, Hobie, no. I got angry at him a little. I shouted, asking how he could be like this, and I begged him to help, but even then I already knew they were all just words. There was nothing I could do. The words I said, the anger I showed, it wasn't directed at Young. It was directed at me. Me who could do nothing. Me who was nothing. Bitch, shut up. You are something. You're my everything. Get it together. All right, let's move on now to the second note from Hosak version 1. July 31st, year 22. My first impression of HYYH was that it was similar to Sonju, but a little more lively. I fell behind the people rushing to leave the platform and walked leisurely. It was unlike me to move slowly, but I moved so slowly that I almost interfered with the flow of people around me. I behaved like someone who had vowed to behave as unlike Jung Ho-seok as possible. Okay, a little confusing that sentence, but I paid no mind to people around me and moved as I wish. I ate spicy foods that I didn't normally like, and when I paid, I didn't tell the server that the food was good. It's so freaking rebellious. When no one's around me, I even spit on the ground. You devil. You devil. I followed the map on the internet to the place where the store was going to be opened. It was the first floor of a strip mall near a high school. Next door there was a stationery store and a 24-hour kimbap restaurant. It was so much like the location of Two Star Burger in Sonju that it was almost funny. I looked around me wondering where I should look for a house if I was going to move here, and as I was looking I bumped into someone. Sorry. I began to apologize automatically, then stopped myself because that's not who HYYH is anymore. I purposely put some strength in my gaze and looked at that person with a critical gaze. Look where you're going. I got because Jung Ho-seok was a rascal. A crazy person who did only what he wanted. That illusion lasted for 5 seconds. Ho-seok, is that you? It was someone I knew. Bitch, tell me who. Tell me more. Tell me more. Is it Jungkook? Who is it? Alright, the last one for HYYH is from version 2. This is from August 30th, year 9. So we're really going back in time. Back to the orphanage. I got up, rubbing my eyes. The youngs gestured like they wanted me to quietly follow them. Honestly, I wanted to sleep more, but I obeyed their words. We left the room quietly and went into the hallway. It was dark all around me. I wondered what time it was, but I had no way of knowing anything other than it was past the time to be asleep. We went up the stairs towards the roof and opened the metal door. Screech! At that noise, the youngs came to a shocked pause, and I did the same. We looked around. We sat all together on the roof. Why are we up here, I asked. The oldest young answered, just wait, Jung Ho-seok. At that moment, I heard an explosion, and the northern sky grew bright. I was so shocked, I closed my eyes and curled up. It smelled like something was burning. Wow, someone shouted, and the oldest young told them to be quiet. I peeked my eyes open and looked up at the northern sky. I heard the explosion again, and the stars appeared in the sky. Not stars, fireworks. Young said. Okay. The fireworks kept blooming. I laid down on the roof and looked up at the stars, fires, flowers that exploded in the sky. Jung Ho-seok is crying. He's crying, I heard a young teasing. Hey, I wiped my eyes with my sleeves, but the tears kept coming. I was like, I've never seen it before, bitch. Chill. The word firework in Korean is a combination of fire and flower, hence why he sees stars, fires, and flowers in the sky. I love that. Okay, so let's move on now to Mr. Jimin. This is version 1, note 1, July 18th, year 22. I killed time wandering around the convenience store. I used to sometimes skip school by jumping over the back wall of the Sonju GL middle school, and I would sometimes wait for the youngs in a small park across from the convenience store. I looked around me. It had been a while since I'd visited this neighborhood, but nothing much has changed. I remember that Yoongi and Jungkook's houses were in this area. As I looked around, I saw something that looked like graffiti inside one of the alleyways to my right. It looked like Taeyoung's work. I walked over that way. Unconsciously, I stopped in front of the drawing. It was someone's face scribbled in rough black lines without any sort of warmth. I say someone's, but I knew whose face it was. It was Seokjin Hyung's. As soon as I thought of Hyung, someone else's face was superimposed on top of it. It was an entirely different face, but both of these faces looked identical. They had the same eyes, soulless eyes. Only then did I realize who I had to find, bitch. Find Seokjin, bitch. It's not clear from the text whether both Jungkook and Yoongi lived in the house or if they both of their respective houses are in the area, so I'm trying to preserve ambiguity. Thank you for that note. Alright, next is Jimin, August 12th, year 22. I embraced my trembling younger self. I felt my damp body and racing heart. Just wait a little more. When you get older, you'll meet some great friends. Then, with them, you'll become a better person. It could get better then. Just be a little bit stronger. I mumbled. When I was done talking, I hugged myself tighter. Tears welled up. I couldn't hold them back and started to cry. How much time passed? When I opened my eyes, my younger self had disappeared. I stood up and wiped my eyes, then looked up at the sky. The midday sky was bright and colorless, and my surroundings were silent. In the distance, I saw the entrance to the arboretum. There wasn't a single trace of rain. Okay, why are we going back here? I don't want to go back. Don't bring me back. It looks like our last note is Jimin from version 3. So let's do it. August 20th, year 17, going back a few years. It was a clear day. The sky was blue and air was fresh. My mother and father and I left the house in the car. The music in the car was exciting, and I rolled down the back window and stuck my hand out. The yellow ginkgo leaves were falling like rain. I stretched my hand to try to catch one, but I didn't even come close. Jimin, you'll get hurt, Mom said, looking back at me. What will you do if you get hurt and you can't go on stage? Like, Mom, let me live my life. I walked atop the stage. Above me, bright white white lights were shining down. The floor shook with rhythm. I danced among many friends. We all lifted up and all came down together. Then moved left and looked at each other. My friends and me alike were all breathless. Even so, we smiled when we saw each other. There was a flood of applause. We went toward the audience and bowed. At the distance, I could see my mother and father standing and applauding. They smiled when they saw me. Okay, at least they're smiling in there. When I opened my eyes, I was looking up the hospital room ceiling. Tears welled in my eyes. I knew it was a dream, but I didn't want to wake up. I wanted to stay within that applause, under that rain of ginkgo leaves, when no matter what, the morning always came and the dream always disappeared. Okay, so that was the worst dream ever. I was like really excited for 1 second. Just like 1 second. All right. Next, we're going to move on to Taeyoung, version 1, note 1. This is July 23rd, year 22. Here we go. We went into the center of the classroom. Old desks and chairs and rolled up event placards appeared under my phone flashlight. The unused classroom seemed older and older. I looked around myself. What had happened here? Jimin sat curled up against the far wall and Yoongi perched on the piano bench. Namjoon wrote something on the window with his fingertip. Probably somehow surviving, because he always does. After a long while, Namjoon spoke. Reminds me of high school, he said, since we're all in here in the middle of the night. High school? No thanks, Yoongi said, sneering a bit, saying, bitch, don't bring me back. Why does the world look like this? We didn't make this world. It was already like this when we were born. So how come we're thrown into it to survive without any tools? Namjoon asked. Just then, Jimin spoke. Look over here. Look over there. He said, straightening up. Seokjin Hyung's dad's name is here. We went over to the place Jimin pointed out. The wall was densely packed with scribbles, but among them was one person's name. Everyone's flashlight pointed at that name. Jimin pointed out another name. Then the man from the mental hospital, he said, I don't know the rest of them though. Yoongi pointed out another name, HYYH. He went missing, right? Namjoon started to read the sentence written underneath the names. Everything started here. Didn't I? Alright, this is February 28th, year 10, back in the day. This is Taeyoung's second version 1 note. Someone was crouching outside the supermarket. It was the first time I'd seen that Hyung. He was playing with Dongi. He pet him and fed him something, like bread. We met eyes for a second, then I looked ahead in surprise and kept walking. I hid myself inside an alley and peeked out. Crap, who is that? I put my hand in my pocket and touched the plastic bag that held my ham and toast. Crap, I tried so hard to hide it. Oh, Taeyoung is here. What are you doing? Didn't you come and play with Dongi? I jumped in surprise. It was the owner of the supermarket. The Hyung from earlier lifted his head and looked at me. Crap, all because of this guy. Since I'd already been caught, I went out in front of the Hyung. Who are you? I asked. Me? He looked at me like he didn't know what he was supposed to say. Why are you playing with Dongi? Dongi. What? Again? He said nothing. That was how I started talking with him. My dad says when he earns a lot of money and when we move to a big house, I can raise a dog, so I'm going to take Dongi and raise him. Don't even think about being greedy, Hyung. Hyung nodded. That sounds nice. Hyung, are you poor? So you can't raise a dog? Okay, bitch. Fucker. Money, Hyung said, looking at me. Then he shook his head. I can't raise a dog. Ask your dad. My mom says dads are weak against nagging. Hyung just nodded and kept petting at Dongi. Then he muttered, that sounds nice. I asked again, so who are you? What's your name, Hyung? Hyung answered without looking up. Me? Kim Seokjin. How did we get here? I used to know you so well, Paramore. What the fuck? Okay, alright, can't let it get to us. So this is the last note from Tae, version 2, note number 1, July 24th, year 22. How long had I been sitting there? I saw someone come out into the 3rd floor hallway. They were a long way away and I couldn't make out their face. But it seemed to be a thin, middle-aged woman. The woman rested her arms on the banister and looked down at the playground. Then she lit a cigarette. The flame of the lighter shone and then vanished. Cigarette smoke spread out into the blue dawn air. I looked up at her without moving an inch. Our surroundings grew lighter, maybe because the sun was rising. The woman stayed with her arms on the banister, looking outward, and lit cigarette after cigarette when the last one burned out. I wondered if she had seen me. My face wouldn't be visible at the distance, but what would she have thought about seeing someone sitting on a swing in a playground at this hour? I supported the swing with both arms and legs so it wouldn't so much as creak. The lit tip of the cigarette flared and waned. Again and again, the sun was coming up. The woman lit her last cigarette as she took in the light. Then she turned around and went back inside. I counted doors from the left of the hall, 3 or 4, 3 or 5, there are 6. Then, that was my mom's house. He was stalking. He was stalking his mama. Okay. We found her. We did it. We did it, boys. Where's Jungkook though? He's supposed to come with you. Okay. The last member we're going to go over today is Jungkook, version 1, note 1, year 22, June 13th. So the June 13th day. Okay. I dreamed. In my dream, I was floating in the air above my hospital bed, looking down at a different me lying there. The me in the bed was asleep. The sleeping me's eyelids moved erratically, like I was dreaming, and then without warning, my eyes flew open. At that moment, our gazes met. He's over here astro projecting. Have you ever seen Insidious? Scary. And the next moment, I was lying in bed. I dreamed of the night of the accident. The headlights became a moon, then changed into bead-like green and red lights when I opened my eyes. A different me was floating in the air above. My gaze met with the me in the air. Our two gazes intersected and our consciousness reversed. I was the me in the bed and then the me in the air, repeating and repeating. The speed of the intersection and reversal started to quicken. I grew dizzy and nauseated. I woke with a scream. My sheets were soaked with sweat. My breathing came short and I felt like throwing up. Suddenly, something I had forgotten until then floated up in my mind. Someone's voice. Lying will be more painful than dying. Is that okay? My mother called the doctor to check my condition. The doctor said that since I was recovering quickly, there was no need to worry. I had bruising and fractures, but almost no bleeding. He told me that I had been very lucky in this accident. I looked at the doctor and asked, who was it who hit me? The doctor know? It's a hit and run. This is the second note from version 1. August 3rd from year 22. What are you doing? Not killing anyone. I dragged myself back to the present at someone's urgent shout. On screen, a shooting game was going on. Someone yelled in my headset that the enemy had appeared. I immediately grabbed the mouse. I shot like crazy. The opponent I shot felt like dogs without stuffing. I moved the mouse and looked around the map. There was a railway track right around the center of the map. And to either side of the track, there were large metal containers stacked all around. It looked like the containers from Soju Station. He's getting triggered. I changed my weapon. It was a machine gun that could shoot continuously in the distance. An enemy wearing a black bandana appeared. I aimed my gun, but for a second, he looked like someone I knew. A PS2 graphics? The enemy was knocked out in a single blow. I didn't think twice about shooting every single one who appeared. Unconsciously, I started thinking of the Youngs. I laughed. Come to think of it, they were a little similar. I took out each one in advance. I shot every enemy that came from the containers. For a moment, I looked down at one of them on the ground. I thought to myself, is that Namjoon Young? Okay. And in that moment, someone's bullet hit my shoulder. I used the mouse to look up and saw the enemy holding a gun. It was Sojin Young. All at once, my rage boiled over. Bitch, what the fuck? Is this real? Is this a game? Are we just, do we need to go see a psychiatrist? Like, Jungkook, come on now. All right, so the last note we're gonna read today is Jungkook, September 30th, year 12. This is from version 3, A Map of the Soul 7. I walked towards where everyone was gathered. What was going on? It seemed like the first time I'd seen so many people gathered in a place that wasn't school or an amusement park. The sound of their conversation was scary. I can't live like this. I'm so scared, someone said as they passed. I slipped between people's legs and made my way to the front. I was afraid, but also curious. It was a huge hole. The hole drilled down to the earth. They called it a sinkhole. I moved a little closer. I wanted to see what was inside the hole. Same. Even though it was midday, I couldn't see inside. All I could see was there were tree roots and things like that emerging from the mud where it caved in. I took another step forward. Be careful, someone shouted. The toe of my sneaker went into the hole. The dirt collapsed and my balance wavered. I took a step back in shock. At that moment, I saw someone glittering sharply inside the hole. It seemed at once like light and like another hole inside the hole. What? You saw somebody's glittering? Is that what we're calling it? Like, what is happening? Somebody's in the sinkhole. Where did the sinkhole come from? Okay. Okay. And that's it, right, people? Yep. Murder's what she wrote, I guess. All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this Map of the Soul 7 HYYH The Notes read through. Don't know really what I'm doing with my life, and I know that these are weird, but I'm so glad that you were here and you made it to the end and we got to read these notes together. If you guys liked it, make sure you click the like and comment and subscribe button or whatever if you haven't. I'm confused again. We've reached that point of confusion again where it's like, damn, where all this come from? We out here shooting video games, we got sinkholes, we got people having visions, astral projecting, and that's just Jungkook. So it's like, what? Anyway, I love y'all. I'll be back with more videos soon, but until then, see you soon. Bye, guys. Would love to know them by name. So